to another episode of today's GK. I am Pooja Divedi, and in this segment, we bring to you objective questions on a daily basis to help you crack prelims. So let's begin with the practice question of last segment. Consider the following: particulate matter, carbon monoxide, ozone, sulfur oxide, nitrogen oxide. Which of the pollutants given above are primary pollutants? Select the correct option using code given below. 1, 2, 3 and 4 only, 1, 2, 4 and 5 only, 2, 3, 4 and 5 only, or all of the above. I hope you have answered it correctly in the comment segment. The question asks you about the primary pollutants. So look at the options here once more. The correct answer for this question is B, that is 1, 2, 4 and 5 only. Particulate matter, carbon monoxide, sulfur oxide and nitrogen oxide. These are primary pollutants. Now, according to a recent Lancet report, poor air quality is associated with a considerable proportion of pregnancy loss in India, Pakistan and Bangladesh. And the data, if we talk about which data has it used, it has used the data on Household Health Survey from the year 1998 to 2016. And it has worked the data in tandem with the satellite and atmospheric models output, and reached to a conclusion that the biggest brunt of miscarriages due to air pollution has been borne by the rural women. And if we talk about the miscarriages which are attributable to the particulate matter, 2.5, older women, older mothers, that means mothers of at least age of 30 and above, have been having miscarriages because of particulate matter 2.5. All right. And if we talk about the study, it is the first study to estimate the effect of air pollution on pregnancy loss across the region. If we talk about air pollution refers to any physical, chemical or biological change in the air. It is the contamination of air by harmful gases, dust and smoke, which affects plants, animals and humans drastically. If we talk about air pollutants, pollutants are the substances which cause pollution, and primary pollutants are the pollutants that directly cause air pollution, or the pollutants that are formed and emitted directly from particular sources. Examples are particulate matter, carbon monoxide, nitrogen oxide and sulfur oxide. If we talk about the secondary pollutants, these are the pollutants formed by the intermingling and reaction of primary pollutants and are known as secondary pollutants. For example, ozone and secondary organic aerosol or haze. Let's move on to our first question. Which of the following has recently released the State of Climate Report 2020? World Meteorological Organization, United Nations Environment Programme, Global Environment Facility, India Meteorological Department. So, the correct answer for this question is D, India Meteorological Department. India Meteorological Department has recently released the State of Climate Report 2020, which looks at temperature and rainfall trends annually. Many a times it happens in your preliminary exam. The subconscious mind, whenever you read something, the subconscious mind needs to be activated. In the sense, if you see this first statement, it could be twisted in the sense that India Meteorological Department has recently released State of the Climate Report 2020, which looks at thermal temperature and rainfall trends annually. And accordingly, it could twist the statement as snowfall trends annually. So you have to be very careful with the entire statement. All right. Whatever is not given in the bold does not mean that it is less important. And if we talk about Indian Meteorological Department, if we talk about IMD, it is an institute under Ministry of Earth Sciences, and it was established in the year 1875. All right. And if we talk about what does it do, it is the primary agency for weather forecasts and seismology. All right, moving on. Highlights of the report, if we talk about, 2020 was the 8th warmest year in India recorded in the last 121 years. Also, the annual mean and land surface air temperature average was 0.29 degrees Celsius above normal for the period average considered between 1981 and 2010. The other warm years over India, all of them post 2005, have been 2009, 2017, 2010 and 2015. The global mean surface temperature was 1.2 degrees Celsius above normal, making it the warmest ever decade from 2011 to 2020 recorded, that too globally. Now let's move on to our next question. Consider the following statements about the market infrastructure institutions. A market infrastructure provides services to the financial industry for trading, clearing and settlement, matching of financial transactions and depository functions. MIIs are systematically important institutions whose failure could lead to bigger collapses, bringing down the economy. So, which of the statements given above is or are correct? A1 only, B2 only, C both 1 and 2, D neither 1 nor 2. The correct answer for this question is C, that means both 1 and 2. Both the statements are correct. Moving on to the explanation, the Securities and Exchange Board of India proposed a new framework for ownership of market infrastructure institutions to facilitate new entrants to set up stock exchanges and depository. Please keep this particular line in mind. For new entrants to set up stock exchange and depositories, that means it wants to bring and boost more and more inclusion when it comes to new entrants in the economy. And if we talk about SEBI, SEBI was instituted in the year 1992 on April 12 under the Securities and Exchange Board of India Act. Alright, and if we talk about what does it do, it basically looks and safeguard the investors' interest. Alright, and if we talk about SEBI, SEBI's headquarters, it is headquartered in New Delhi. Alright, and moving on, the regulator has suggested a liberalized framework in the landscape of MIIs by allowing higher shareholding at the inception stage and prescribing a dilution in the ownership over a period of time. It has recommended a more diversified composition of statutory committees at MIIs to boost corporate governance norms. It has been proposed that promoters setting up the MII may directly or indirectly, either individually or together with persons acting in concert, can hold up to 100% shareholding. In case of foreign entities, such limit has been proposed up to 49%. MII should also be public limited company. MIIs, stock exchanges, depositories and clearing corporations are systemically important institutions whose failure could lead to bigger cataclysmic collapses, bringing down the economy. A market infrastructure is a system administered by a public organization or other public instrumentality or a private and regulated association or entity that provides services to the financial industry for trading, clearing and settlement, matching of financial transactions and depository functions. Now let's move on to our next question. With reference to the equalization levy, consider the following statements. Equalization levy is aimed at taxing the income accruing to foreign e-commerce companies from India. Currently, the applicable rate of tax under equalization levy is 10%. Which of the following statements is or are correct? A1 only, B2 only, C both 1 and 2, D neither 1 nor 2. The correct answer for this question is A, that is 1 only. Moving on to the explanation. Recently, the Office of US Trade Representative has released its findings on investigation into India's digital service tax or equalization levy. This was introduced in India in the year 2016 with the intention of taxing the digital transactions, the income accruing to foreign e-commerce companies from India. It is aimed at taxing business-to-business transaction. The equalization levy is aimed at taxing foreign companies which have a significant local client base in India but are billing them through their offshore units, effectively escaping the country's tax system. Equalization levy at 6% has been in force since 2016 on payment exceeding rupees 1 lakh a year to a non-resident service provider for online advertisements. Let's look at our next question, please. Consider the following statements. Gross fixed capital formation refers to the measure of total investments including all kinds of financial assets. It does not account for the depreciation of fixed capital. Which of the statements given above is or are correct? A1 only, B2 only, C both 1 and 2, D neither 1 nor 2. Now, the correct answer for this question is B, that is 2 only. Moving on to the explanation. Gross fixed capital formation refers to the net increase in physical assets. That means investments minus disposals. It does not account for the consumption, that means depreciation of fixed capital. It is a component of expenditure approach to calculating gross domestic product. Now, because of the COVID-19 induced lockdown and even before that as well, the gross fixed capital formation was declining. And because of the declining trend of gross fixed capital formation, investments are not increasing and our economy has been stagnant in this sense or declining even. Alright, moving on. GFCF is not a measure of total investment because only the value of net additions to fixed assets is measured and all kinds of financial assets as well as stocks of inventories and other operating costs, these are excluded. Moving on, let's look at our next question. Which of the following has recently launched the Payments Infrastructure Development Fund scheme? Now, we have covered PIDF scheme in one of our in-new segments as well. So, you will be able to answer this question with the help of that. Niti Aayog, Ministry of Finance, Ministry of Railways, Reserve Bank of India. The correct answer for this question is D, that is Reserve Bank of India. Moving on to the explanation. The RBI has recently announced operational guidelines for the Payments Infrastructure Development Fund scheme. And the primary focus of the fund will be to create payment acceptance infrastructure in Tier 3 to Tier 6 cities with a special focus on northeastern states. Now, PIDF, this will provide infrastructure to the acquirers in order to increase the digital inclusion in the areas where digital penetration is not at satisfactory levels. Alright, moving on. The fund will be used to subsidize banks and non-banks for deploying payment infrastructure, which will be contingent upon specific targets being achieved. The acquirers here will also submit a quarterly report to show what progress has been made throughout. Also, RBI has constituted an advisory council under the chairmanship of BP Kanungo, a deputy governor, to manage the fund. The PIDF will be operational for 3 years from 1st January 2021 and it may be extended for 2 or more years based on progress. The primary targets of the scheme will be merchants providing essential services such as transport and hospitality, government payments, fuel pumps, PDS, shops, healthcare facilities and kiranas, especially those who do not have a payment acceptance device. Multiple payment acceptance devices and infrastructure supporting card payments are covered under this scheme. Let's move on to our next question, please. Consider the following statements with reference to Jagannath Puri temple. The Jagannath temple is also called the White Pagoda and is a part of Char Dham. It is believed to be constructed in the 12th century by the Chandel dynasty. It is famous for its annual Rath Yatra or chariot festival. Now, look at the options. Which of the statements given above is or are correct? A2 only, B1 and 3 only, C 2 and 3 only, or D 1, 2 and 3. Let's move back to our statements for convenience. So, the correct answer for this question is B, that is 1 and 3 only. The first and the third statement, these two statements are correct. The Jagannath temple in Puri was called the White Pagoda. The temple is a part of Char Dham, Badrinath, Dwarka, Puri, Rameshwaram. These are the Char Dham pilgrimages that a Hindu is expected to make in one's lifetime. When most of the deities in the temples of India are made of stone or metal, the idol of Jagannath is made of wood, which is ceremoniously replaced in every 12 or 19 years by using sacred trees. The temple is believed to be constructed in the 12th century by King Anantvarman Deva of the Eastern Ganga dynasty. The temple is famous for its annual Rath Yatra or chariot festival, in which the three principal deities, Jagannath, Balabhadra, and Subhadra, are pulled on huge and elaborately decorated temple cars. Jagannath Puri temple is called Yamanika Tirtha, where, according to the Hindu beliefs, the power of Yama, the god of death, has been nullified in Puri due to the presence of Lord Jagannath. Let's look at our next question. Consider the following statements with reference to vanadium. Vanadium is a high-value metal used in strengthening steel and titanium. India is a significant consumer and producer of vanadium worldwide. Which of the statements given above is or are correct? A. 1 only. B. 2 only. C. Both 1 and 2. D. Neither 1 nor 2. The correct answer for this question is A. 1 only. Moving on to the explanation. Vanadium is a chemical element with the symbol V and atomic number 23, and it is a hard silvery gray malleable transition metal. So if we talk about presence of vanadium in nature, it is widely found, but it is not found in its metal nature. Now it could be found in fossil fuels such as crude oil, coal tar, but it has to be processed in order to reach to its metal form. In the year 2017, India utilized 4% of the 84,000 metric tons of vanadium available worldwide, and China, which produces 57% of vanadium in the year 2017, used a whopping 44% of it. Alright, moving on. The elemental metal is rarely found in nature. It is recovered as a byproduct from the slag collected from processing of vanadiferous magnetite ores. Vanadium is a high-value metal used in strengthening steel and titanium as well. India is a significant consumer of vanadium, but it is not a primary producer of the strategic metal. The Geological Survey of India found promising concentrations of vanadium in the Paleoproterozoic carbonaceous phyllite rocks in the Depo and Tamang areas of Papumpare district in Arunachal Pradesh. This was the first report of a primary deposit of vanadium in India with an average grade of 0.76%. Moving on, let's look at our next question. Consider the following statements with reference to the LiDAR or LiDAR. It is a remote sensing method that uses light in the form of a pulsed laser to measure ranges, that means variable distances to the Earth. These light pulses, combined with other data recorded by the airborne system, generate precise three-dimensional information about the shape of the Earth and its surface characteristics. Which of the following statements is or are correct? A. 1 only, B. 2 only, C. Both 1 and 2, D. Neither 1 nor 2. The correct answer for this question is C, that is both 1 and 2, both the statements are correct. Moving on to the explanation, LiDAR, which stands for light detection and ranging, is a remote sensing method that uses light in the form of pulsed laser to measure ranges, that means distance from the Earth. Suppose there is a device such as an unmanned aerial vehicle. Now this vehicle will use a laser light to, suppose this is a hill. Now here the light will be sent through a laser and it will calculate the time in which the light is reflected back to the unmanned aerial vehicle, and through this the distance will be measured. Alright, so moving on to our next statement, these light pulses, now these are combined with other data recorded by airborne system generate precise three-dimensional information about the shape of the Earth and its surface characteristics as well. A LiDAR instrument principally consists of a laser, a scanner, and specialized GPS receiver. National High Speed Rail Corporation Limited is adopting LiDAR technology, which provides all the ground details and data in 3 to 4 months, wherein this process normally takes 10 to 12 months. Let's look at our next question, please. Consider the following statements with reference to legal entity identifier. It is a 20-digit number used to uniquely identify parties to financial transactions worldwide. The RBI introduced the LEI system for all payment transactions of value 50 crore rupees and above undertaken by entities using RBI-run centralized payment systems. It will improve the quality and accuracy of financial data systems for better risk management post the global financial crisis. Which of the statements given above is or are correct? A3 only, B1 and 2 only, C2 and 3 only, D 1, 2 and 3. Now, the correct answer for this question is D 1, 2 and 3. All the statements are correct. Moving on to the explanation. The LEI is a 20-digit number used to uniquely identify parties to financial transactions worldwide. It was conceived as a key measure to improve the quality and accuracy of financial data systems for better risk management post the global financial crisis. The RBI has now decided to introduce the LEI system for all payments transaction of value rupees 50 crore and above undertaken by entities, that is non-individuals, using RBI-run centralized payment systems via real-time gross settlement and national electronics fund transfer. The LEI has been introduced by the RBI in a phased manner for participants in the over-the-counter derivatives and non-derivatives market, and also for a large corporate borrowers. The RBI, as the preparation for the wider introduction of LEI across all payments transaction, is issued directions to the member banks. In India, LEI can be obtained from Legal Entity Identifier India Limited, which is also recognized as an issuer of LEI by the Reserve Bank under the Payment and Settlement Systems Act of 2007. Now the next question. The Cherry Blossom Mao Festival, recently in the news, is celebrated in which of the following states? Nagaland, Assam, Manipur, Meghalaya. So, the correct answer for this question is C, that is Manipur. Moving on to the explanation, the Mao area of Senapati district in Manipur is known for cherry blossom, a plant which is popularly known as Sankura in Japan. The Manipur government started organizing the festival every year from 2017 onwards. The festival features the picturesque landscape of Mao town adorned with beautiful cherry blossom flowers. Let's look at our practice question for our next segment. Consider the following statements regarding the President's rule that is imposed under Article 356 of the Constitution. Under Article 356, it can be imposed in any state even without the recommendation of the governor of the respective state. Every proclamation of the President's rule must be approved by both the houses of the Parliament within 3 months from the date of its issue. So, which of the statements given above is or are correct? A1 only, B2 only, C both 1 and 2, D neither 1 nor 2. Look at that statements once more. So, I hope you will be able to answer it correctly in the comment segment. That's it for today. Tomorrow we shall meet again with another segment. Until then, stay updated and thank you so much for watching.